Hey, good morning, people. How you all doing today? So, just some random thoughts, musings around some of the news that is going on in the oil and gas sector. I think to start this video, I'd like to say first and foremost, congratulations to the Dangote Refinery. PMS is out. It's no longer a myth. It's no longer a fallacy. It's no longer a projection. What we hear categorically is that it's safe to say that they would start in September with 20 million liters of PMS a day. They would move on to October and be able to push out about 30 million liters a day. What does this portend? Is this to say that this is the safe daily consumption as a country? I mean, I can't say it is for a fact, but if I had to guess, maybe around 30, 40. It also means that if this happens, how will the Dangote Refinery sell PMS? We've heard a lot of conversations around, would it go only to NNPC as the sole buyer? I hope it's not true, even though that's what we hear. Why do I hope it's not true? They haven't showed us over time that they've been able to manage that interface between market prices and the subsidized price. They haven't showed any accountability or transparency in that regard. So in my opinion, I don't think it should be given to them again. In my opinion, what I think should happen is that people like major marketers who are Meman, Dapma, Ipman, maybe if they can also form themselves as a collective group. And basically the market should buy from Dangote at the price that he sells at. Now, let me dwell on that a bit. The price that the Dangote Refinery sells at, if we go by the assumption that he's going to get crude in Naira, it means that if he gets crude in Naira for his barrels, then at that exchange rate, he would be able to feed into his refinery crude that he has bought in Naira, so the input here is Naira, and give us ex-refinery prices of petrol. And this conversation is strictly about petrol. If he gives us that ex-refinery price, whatever it is, if you did a typical landing today, you'd be north of 1,000 Naira. So maybe about 1,080, 1,100. If you were refining this product locally, then there's a freight advantage, quote and unquote, that you should get. If we put in that freight advantage into this conversation, then I'll be saying, let's say take out 10%. If you took out 10% of 1,100, then maybe we're basically somewhere on the borderline of about 990, 900. Let's just say 900. So one thing that has happened is this. Today, we have seen prices across some retail outlets. I saw an NNPC outlet with 885, I believe. So it means that the pricing has moved. And there are two ways this can happen. If the government says that subsidy is gone, then it means that prices are going to tilt towards north of 1,000 Naira. If the government decides to keep subsidy, they might want to introduce NNPC as the single buyer so that they warehouse that subsidy with NNPC, which in my opinion shouldn't be. Do they want to say they want to go ahead and then basically subsidize foreign exchange? So you peg it at a rate for him where he's buying crude barrels at, let's say, 1,450. That takes prices, by my rough calculations, to about 900. One thing is clear, prices are going to move, and they've already moved. If the presidency decides that there is no more subsidy, then what will happen is that NNPC will not stand in that gap. They will sell directly to marketers, and marketers will sell to the market. I had a conversation with one industry veteran who I respect a lot, and he painted to me a good scenario of what Margaret Thatcher did in the UK. Tough decisions are being taken. What makes it difficult for most Nigerians, most of us to take, is the fact that the government doesn't seem to be empathic to the plight of the populace. And why do I say so? They haven't reduced government spending, and it just shows some kind of insensitivity. Let's come back to the picture at hand. Two things would either happen. Either prices will move to 800, 900 levels, which they are, or they'll ultimately move to north of 1,000 naira. Regardless of what happens, tough times ahead in September, because September becomes the litmus test. While NNPC might be brought into this equation in the middle, it will be telling that this is the time for the will of the government to begin to reshape that organization. And it's not about NNPC now, it's about the will of the government. You need to make sure that that entity becomes something that is credible if it's going to stay. And I said that to say this: Saudi Aramco is government owned. They are so well run, profit driven, production driven. It's hard to compete with them. I'm not saying NNPC will become that tomorrow, but if the government has a will to play in this thing, that is the road, that is the way they should begin to think. Back to prices before I cap up. Probably see prices of 885, 850, 900. Those for me will be the prices we'll be seeing PMS at pump prices. I'm not so sure what the model will be, but I still think that marketers should be the direct selling points to the refineries. And of course, he's still going to make some money from exporting whatever excesses he has, because that also affects the balance of payments for the country. But interesting times. Dangote had been called May Gishiri May Sugar. PMS is the true test. He has added fuel to it, which we call May. Have a good afternoon, people. Comments will be very, very welcome. Cheers.